Hey there, I am Jessica Dilling. I am one of the educational specialists at Child and Family Development in North Carolina, where we are finishing the first quarter of the school year. So some schools have already completed the first quarter. Other schools are getting ready to be done with the first quarter at the end of this month. But now is the time when the other educators and I will start to get a lot of questions about executive functioning skills. Mostly parents reaching out. Maybe you have received a progress report or a first quarter report card, and you're finding that your child's grades really aren't aren't really reflecting their ability. So thinking about maybe they're not turning in homework, maybe they're having trouble staying organized or focusing in one particular class. So we tend to get a lot of questions about that, and really wanted to just spend a few minutes today talking about what those executive functioning skills are, how they can impact learning, and then just a few ideas for what you can try at home or some strategies that you can put into practice for the second quarter. So I'm going to share my screen here and show you. This is kind of just a brief overview of the executive functioning skills. So few things to keep in mind while you are reviewing this. These skills are going to differ pretty greatly by a child's age. So there is a huge span. Developmentally, kids that are in those early elementary school years, they are not ready to sort of be taking on strategies for improving these areas independently. By middle school, we're hoping that kids can start to practice some of the strategies on their own. And then by high school, we're really thinking about mastering some of these strategies and really starting to learn about their own strengths and weaknesses so that they can become better advocates. Something else to keep in mind is that these skills, they look different across settings, but it's the same skill. So remembering to bring your lunchbox from the cafeteria is very similar to remembering to bring your baseball glove to practice, or remembering your jacket on the playground, or remembering the rules of a game when you're hanging out with friends. So when we're thinking about executive functioning skills and areas that your child might need some support, we kind of want to think about it not just specific to school. And a lot of times we'll think about those things just as they relate to school, but really they're probably occurring in other areas of the child's life. So it's helpful sometimes to think about executive functioning skills and any areas of need in school, at home, and then with peers. The third thing to kind of be mindful of while we're talking about these skills is that they're often associated with ADHD. Kids that have ADHD also are having lots of difficulty with these skills, but that's not always the case. So if you have a child who does not have a diagnosis of ADHD, but is really unorganized or has a messy backpack, things like that, it doesn't necessarily, the two things do not have to go together. So it's sometimes helpful, I think, for everyone to start to learn some strategies for improving executive functioning skills. And that's just something to keep in mind. The ADHD diagnosis is not something, if your child doesn't have that, it doesn't mean that they don't need support in these other areas. So executive functioning skills and learning. There's a lot of different ways that this can impact your learning. So as you're kind of reading through some of these examples, I think it's important to keep a couple of things in mind. So when I'm working with students in the clinic, when I'm working with students, in a school setting before coming to Child and Family, one thing that we really want kids to understand is that any weaknesses with executive functioning skills is not necessarily tied to their intelligence. So I think it's really defeating when a child can feel pretty defeated if they're smart and they're intelligent and they're forgetting to turn in their homework. Their grades really aren't reflecting what they know or how they do. They can start to feel, like I said, defeated. They can start to feel overwhelmed. And so one way that I sort of describe this to kids is that executive functioning skills are kind of like the boss of your brain. And so they're responsible for making sure you're on time. They're responsible for making sure you remember to turn in your homework, or that you have everything you need to get started on an assignment or on a project. And so sometimes, the boss of your brain just needs a little extra practice, just needs to learn some strategies, needs to go to some training, but it has nothing to do with how smart or how intelligent you are. I think sometimes kids can have decreased academic confidence if they are spinning their wheels, if they're at school and they're keeping it together all day and they're doing all of the work and then they forget to turn it in. So all those things can kind of come into play when we're thinking about that. Something else to be mindful of is that not all kids will need support with all of the executive functioning skills. So you may be great with time management, but you may have a more difficult time staying organized. So just because there's an area of need, it doesn't necessarily mean that a child would need all different areas. It's not really a one size fits all by any means. Also, what a child may need year to year can change. So as the demands for school change, as the demands for learning or the demands for being more independent with your work changes, that we're going to see some different things come to light that maybe weren't an issue in the past, maybe were an issue in the past. So just kind of keeping all of those things in mind. So now that we kind of have a quick overview of those executive functioning skills and how they can impact learning, we can kind of think through, well, what do we do now? And I thought maybe it would be helpful to think about, there's so many strategies for executive functioning. And like I said, it's not a one size fits all. And unfortunately, a lot of times the novelty for things will wear off. So maybe what worked first quarter or what worked in 7th grade is not necessarily going to work in the 4th quarter or in 8th grade. And different teachers have different expectations. And so thought it might be helpful to sort of think about the 2 most frequently asked questions that we get and just start by answering those. So the first thing that the other educators and I are often asked is how to get a child motivated or get them to buy in. And this is really important because we can give strategies all day, we can teach strategies all day, but if a child goes to school and they don't use them, then we're not making any progress. And it can feel to a child that has a weakness with these skills, it can feel like one more thing they have to do. So while some kids are really motivated and they want to do a great job and they're willing to take in any strategy we give them, other kids that have kind of been struggling for a while, they maybe don't want to use an agenda or a planner to help them stay organized. They feel like it's something extra they have to do. They maybe don't want extra time to take on a test because that might make them feel like they're different from their friends, or they are not sure how to use that time effectively. So there's a lot of different factors in getting kids to be motivated and to buy into these strategies. But there has to be a way that we can kind of get them to do that, or everything we're going to give them is not going to be as effective as it could be. So the first thing is to kind of create an awareness of why we even need to put something into place, why we even need to learn a strategy for getting better at this. With younger kids, I think this is a little bit easier. So developmentally, they're maybe not able to do things on their own just yet in terms of their organization or time management, but we can start to create an awareness of that. So using time management as an example, when kids are younger and we're giving them a chore, a 2nd grader needs to unload the dishwasher, maybe thinking about, well, how long do you think this is going to take you? And asking them. Some kids may say an hour, some kids may say 10 minutes, and then actually timing it. So helping them sort of create an awareness around, this was the task, here's how long I thought it was going to take me, here's how long it actually took me, and really kind of having those conversations with everyday tasks will help them sort of start to realize how long things take, or when we're having conversations about time management as they get older, they kind of already have that awareness. Praising effort. This is another really big area. So getting kids to buy into using strategies, if we are praising their effort over their grades to begin with, this can really go a long way. So really kind of recognizing, hey, you used that extra time on your test. I saw you using that strategy. Or I saw you really making your to-do list before you got started on that assignment. Great job. And I think praising those things as opposed to the actual grade on the tests that they got, or whether or not the questions on their homework assignment were correct. Praising the effort for using the strategy is a big deal that can go a long way. Incentivizing things when we're first getting started to get kids to buy in. You know, we're trying to teach them that that they need to use this, but then also we want them to sort of make that connection to how it made their life easier. So if you're using incentives, you know, anything from a sticker chart to, you know, you get to pick what's for dinner if you use these strategies, whatever incentives you choose as a family, if that's something that you're doing, it's important to then make that connection for the child. They used the strategy and they got a good grade. Sometimes kids don't automatically make that connection, and we feel like they should. So take, for example, a task at home. So they need to clean their room. We use a Post-it note, and we prioritized all the things that they need to do on their Post-it note to clean their room. They go upstairs, they clean their room, they used their note, and then you help them make the connection to say, look how much quicker we did that this time around. We followed our list and we got through it so much faster. So sometimes making that connection is really key to getting them to buy in. The second question that we also get asked very often, we work with a lot of families, a lot of parents out there, and everyone is really busy. So just kind of having time to really talk through all of this and really think through it. Teachers are, you know, overwhelmed. They've got a lot of students, and taking the time to really one-on-one sit down and teach some of these strategies, it can be really tough. And so a couple ideas to try at home. First would be to plan. Second, to prioritize. So the first thing we want to do is think about kind of the week at a glance. So on Sunday, whether your child's in elementary school, middle school, high school, kind of take a look at your week at a glance. Some families like to use a calendar. Some families just like to write things down, but really taking about 10 minutes to sit down with your child and say, okay, what do we have going on this week? Obviously, we're going to school Monday through Friday. Do we have practice on Tuesday night? We're going to go to grandma's on Thursday for dinner. We're going to do all these different things, at band concerts on Friday. So kind of plugging all those different things in and identifying areas where your child will have time to work on schoolwork is key. If you happen to know what their homework is going to be a week in advance, some schools do it that way. Might be helpful to plug those things in right on Sunday so that they have a to-do list ready to go. If that's not the case for your school, then every day when children are coming home from school and you have identified that block of time that you're going to work on homework, the very first thing we want to do is just pull out and see what they have, and then we want to prioritize it. So that brings us to the second part. So now we have our plan, we know when we're working, and now we want to prioritize those things. And so this really can kind of come down to it. Kids are not going to maybe love this right off the bat, but having them identify what might take them the longest, or a task that's not preferred, something that they really don't want to do. Maybe your child struggles with math, and so they're just kind of putting that off. What we want to do is prioritize that first. We want to do that first so that when we're fresh and we have the most energy, we can work on that assignment. And then as the night proceeds and as we get more tired, the easier things are what's left. So that's kind of one way to think about prioritizing. Also prioritizing assignments. So this can really map onto studying. So if you have an older student who needs to study for a science test, handing a child a study guide or their notebook and just saying, okay, go study. Sometimes they aren't real sure where to start, or are they even using that time wisely? So a lot of times I'll suggest to kids that come see us here in the clinic is, let's go through and let's use a color-coded system. So let's look at all the main topics that you need to study and let's just rank them or color code them. So if it's something that we're going to color code as green, you know it. You could talk about it all day long. If it's yellow, then maybe it's something you have some questions about. Maybe we need to review this. And if it's red, then we're thinking, I don't even remember learning that. And then that way, when we go sit down to study, we're going to start with the red things first. We're going to start reviewing that information that we really don't have a good handle on. As our study time gets less and less, now we're left with the things that we just need a little review, and we're left again with the things that we just need a quick review because we've already mastered that concept. So planning the week, and then planning the day, and then moving to prioritizing those assignments within the day. So just a couple quick strategies that we share with with families. If there is a specific strategy that you'd like to know about, if you have concerns about executive functioning skills or you want to learn more about them, please reach out to us here at Child and Family Development, our psychology and education team. We have a lot of individuals that are happy to help families, and we would love to talk to you more about that. So please visit our website or give us a call at the office, and we look forward to hearing from you.